Yes, ma'am. Hilton had ER opened at 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon.
Good morning. I appreciate y'all coming back today. We've got several guests that are going to make comments, and I'll ask y'all, like I have in the past couple of days, when you come up to the podium, if you would introduce yourself, and that would help the media a lot. August 27th was our first state conference call for Hurricane Dorain. So we're a little over 10 days into this project, and we still have work to do, but it's going smoothly. There's a lot of things that we'll be meeting about over the next couple of days to make sure that we look at the past 10 days, 11 days, find out what we did right, find out what we can improve on, and we'll be working on that as after action. I'm going to start out with Colonel Baxley.
Thanks, sir. Good morning, everybody. Thank y'all for being here. For those of you who are interested in OpCons, Beaufort County went to OpCon 3 yesterday afternoon at 6 p.m. OpCon 3 is our normal operating conditions every day. We shut the Emergency Operations Center down at 1800 yesterday and sent all those hardworking folks home. And today it's Emergency Management Division staff only. The issue that we're currently working through is lack of power for several areas, mostly in northern Beaufort County. At the peak yesterday afternoon, Dominion and Palmetto Electric Santee reported a total of approximately 22,000 customers without power. At 9 o'clock this morning, that number had been dropped to 6,000 through some really hard work by the utility companies overnight. And they anticipate having it below 1,000 by 9 o'clock tomorrow. As a result of this, we have opened a Red Cross shelter at Battery Creek High School at 8 o'clock this morning for those folks who are without power and would like to get into a situation that's air conditioned. Red Cross will provide a meal. If we don't see any response, if the folks don't feel like they need it, we'll close it at 6 o'clock tonight. But if we've got folks there, we'll keep it open through tomorrow morning. The Beaufort County Emergency Management, Beaufort County Sheriff's Office Dispatch Center answered a total of 2,165 phone calls between September 4th and 5th during the peak operational period here. 351 of those calls were 911 calls. 1,814 of them were non-emergency calls. And the law enforcement officers, fire service, and EMS answered a total of 7,612 calls for service in that September 4th, 5th period of time. We had 450 folks from Beaufort County, the bulk of them from Beaufort County, shelter at Jasper at the high school. They have all gone home. That shelter was closed this morning, and they have all gone home. We had a high wind gust of 67 miles per hour at the Hilton Head Airport at the peak of the storm. 6 miles off Fripp Island at the weather buoy out there, there was a wind recorded of 92 miles per hour. 6 mile an hour, 6 mile distance difference, and a 25 mile an hour difference. That's how close it was. And we've got a picture up here of a wind gust that was recorded yesterday just at noontime at the Harbor River Bridge of 39.2. So that is tropical storm force winds yesterday. We took a total of 87 trees down type calls during the peak of the storm, the bulk of them on highways and across power lines. We had a report of 3 different incidents with trees on houses and no injuries reported in any of that situation. All of the trees, to my knowledge, all the trees that were on roadways have been cleared as of yesterday afternoon. The only thing we're still dealing with is the power outages, and the utilities are doing a fantastic job knocking that down. That's where I'm at. Thank y'all.
Will you cover the buoy?
The buoy?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. The one at Fripp Island, I just mentioned that.
Okay. And what is it, 6 miles?
6 mile difference, yes, sir.
Okay. Presenting Yamasee.
Good morning, Matthew Garnes, Town of Yamasee. Fortunately, we were unscathed up there. No storm damage or any storm-related calls. We'd like to thank our Public Works Department for their work throughout the event. They made sure that all the drainage ditches, spillways, and All that stuff was taken care of ahead of time. We did have 2 power outages throughout the event. The first one was at the very beginning of the storm. That affected about 3,000 people in the MSC and Early Branch area. And the second one was yesterday afternoon. That just affected 52 people. That was taken care of very quickly. The garbage for the town is on schedule. And the mayor would like to thank Beaufort County, Hampton County, and all the municipalities for working together and bringing a unified message for the duration of the storm. Thank you.
Mayor McCann?
Well, good morning. It's good to be here today after the storm. I want to thank the sheriff for putting these meetings together every day. And I particularly want to thank the colonel for all his insight, his research, his advice, for everything you've done along the way. The county really appreciates it along the way. A new person at the county has just got involved in everything, done a great job, and we appreciate that. And I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you to the Tom Dunn, who runs the Hilton Head Island emergency system for evacuations and storms and hurricanes. Tom Dunn and his team did an excellent job. One thing I learned doing this whole session, when I spent a day and a half there, was when you train all year long, things go seamless. These people trained all year long, and it worked out very, very well. So I'm proud to be one of them, and I thank you all for all the help you've given us.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Billy, since you were walking this way, with a nice cup of coffee.
Cheers. The sun is out. Our crews are cleaning up the debris. No injuries that I'm aware of, no serious damage that I'm aware of. I just want to thank our crew and your crew for a fabulous job. I would say that we should probably all take a moment out to think about those who were not as fortunate as we were, whether it's the Bahamas or those up the road or those still in the path. Our thoughts and prayers are with them. We're very fortunate. Thank everybody for their work. The sun is shining. We can go outside.
Mayor Murray?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the Sheriff Department and his crew for a wonderful job of pulling us all together. It's amazing how we all come together in a crisis time. Our new administrator for the county, glad to have you on board with us.
Yes, sir.
Now you understand what it's like living on the coast. Town of Port Royal, I think we fared off real well. Our Public Works Department is out now cleaning up and getting the town back in order. We rode all over town yesterday, saw some few trees down. Other than that, things seemed to, a lot of debris down, but other than that, everything seemed to be in good order. Thank to all my other mayors who have pulled together. Seemed like we got closer and closer together as every day rolls around. So let's keep up the good work and thank all the citizens who were out of town, and you can safe to come back into town now. I think everything is well protected. Our police department is all over the place. It's amazing how the police department, I was down at the police department yesterday, last night. Those who were not on duty was all there around the table sitting together. I don't know whether because we have a person on staff who loves to cook, and he was cooking food. He cooked food the other night, and he cooked breakfast yesterday morning, so I think that might have had something to do with it, but they were all there whether they was on duty or not. We want to thank all of you for what you've done for this time, and hope we're glad we escaped, and pray for those who were a little unfortunate than we are. Thank you.
Scott?
Good morning. I'm Scott Marshall, Deputy Town Manager of the Town of Bluffton. On behalf of our Mayor and Town Council, I got a few things I'd like to pass on. The first of which is that our Town Hall is open today until noon. Primarily that is so we can accommodate those who still wish to file for candidacy for Town Council and the Office of Mayor. We have a municipal election in November, and noon today is the filing deadline. We also want to let residents know that we've been in touch with Waste Management regularly, frequently over the past few days. And they are doing what they can to pick up what trash they can today. They expect to be back on a regular schedule next week. So we ask for your patience in that matter, and we are doing all we can. Also want to acknowledge the preparedness of the residents of the town of Bluffton and the surrounding area. It was obvious as we headed into the storm that communication was very effective with our residents, and we want to thank the residents for doing what is right when it came to them and their families, whether it be to shelter in place responsibly or whether it be to evacuate. So thank you for that. But with that being said, we always want to work on our communication efforts. So if you have any ideas at all on how to improve how to communicate with you during these storm activities, please let us know and we'll work with you. Also want to acknowledge Police Chief Chris Chapman and our emergency manager, Captain Scott Chandler. It was evident as we headed into this storm that we were very prepared, and that is due to work that takes place all year long. So thank you very much to them. And lastly, I want to acknowledge Sheriff Tanner and his emergency management staff, headed by Lieutenant Colonel Neil Baxley. I've had the opportunity to get to know these guys very well over the last few years, spent a few hours with them. And I can tell you that Neil Baxley, when he's sitting in that chair in the Situation Room, he is operating with the patience of Job, the wisdom of Solomon, and he always does it with a smile. I don't know how you do that, but you do it somehow. Also want to acknowledge some people whose names you don't hear very often. Major David Zioli, who coordinates and manages everybody on the emergency support function floor. That's well over 24 activities on the floor, and he manages them very well and makes sure that all those support functions come off flawlessly and they're communicating with each other and with the emergency management staff. Also want to acknowledge Lieutenant Chuck Runyon. That's a name you don't hear very often, but anybody who works in these activities knows who Chuck Runyon is, because he is the guy who takes care of those who takes care of the rest of the county. Those emergency responders on the road and those that are sheltered in place never have to worry about where their next meal is coming from, and they never have to worry about where they're going to lay their heads for a few nights' sleep when they get the opportunity. So thank you to Lieutenant Colonel Runyon and his staff. That's about all I have. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you, Scott.
Well, you know, the real boss upstairs is Trinity Funk. She's sitting out here. She really is the one that gets things gets things going. Chief Chapman, do you have anything to offer?
No, sir, thank you.
Chief Clancy?
No, sir.
Okay. Councilman?
Good morning. I'm not Stu Rodman. I'm Alice Howard with Beaufort County Council, but on behalf of him, I'd like to thank our first responders and the Sheriff's Department who did an outstanding job, and all of the people in Beaufort County who are public servants, including our administrator, Ashley Jacobs, and her leadership to lead all our staff. Bless every one of you. You're great public servants for staying and help and making this an event that was uneventful. Thank you.
Joe?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Joe Mantua with Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer Authority. Just want to take a couple minutes to update you on our operations. I'm very pleased to report that we did have very minimal impacts to the system and overall operations. All of our treatment facilities are currently fully operational. We did have to utilize some backup power at some of them, but we never lost power. We did experience a number of outages at some of our secondary pumping stations. However, through the great work of the utility companies, they responded very quickly. We'd like to thank those partners for working with us on the quick response and getting those back up. As of this morning, I think we only had one station that was still out, but we are utilizing bypass pumping to take care of that. Related to the water quality, our plants never experienced any issues. The system's fine, so all your water is very safe to drink. We did mention the other day about having to restrict some flow on the causeways. We have, as of yesterday at about 2 p.m., opened up all those valves, so it flows back to normal. We do ask folks that are out and about, as you're cleaning up your yards and dealing with clearing out any debris from the storm, that you try to keep it clear of any hydrants, meter vaults, or any other of our infrastructure that we would need to access, and we certainly appreciate your help with that. Just a note on, as far as our administrative offices are currently still closed to give our employees time to get themselves and their families back to the area for those that evacuated. So we will reopen normal operations on Monday morning. Appreciate your patience with us on that. And finally, just like everybody else, I'd like to first thank our crews, our folks that spent all last week, all through the holiday weekend preparing for this, and then working throughout this week to be ready, and then immediately get out and take care of the things, do the damage assessments. So we have a great team there, and really thank them for all their hard work. And also this team, sheriff, county administrator, all the local administration, really appreciate their great communication and teamwork throughout this effort, and been great to work with. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Rodriguez?
Thank you. Good morning. And I want to just again echo the sentiments you've heard. Thank our sheriff and his team, as well as all the municipalities, mayors, and local law enforcement from different municipalities. It's been, I'm no stranger to hurricanes coming from Florida, but I think I speak for all of us. We'd be just happy if we didn't get another one here. So I want to just report to you that our schools have fared well through the storm. Beaufort County School District will open and resume normal operations on Monday, September 6th. I want to thank our school district facilities and maintenance team for being out there yesterday afternoon and doing a preliminary damage assessment, as well as all day today, and we'll be working throughout the weekend to make sure that our facilities are completely ready for Monday. So we will be ready on Monday, and we will open our doors then. Thank you.
Ashley.
Good morning. Ashley Jacobs, Beaufort County Administrator. We had little to no damage to our facilities, and Beaufort County government offices will be open for business Monday morning. Beaufort Memorial Hospital is open. Hilton Head Hospital is open. The ER opened yesterday, and they are at full operations today. Coastal Carolina Hospital is open. Public Works crews cleared debris from roads all day yesterday, and they will be out again today. We will be driving around to make sure that we didn't miss anything. So far, the crews have responded to 115 requests. We still have about 6,000 customers without power in northern Beaufort County. And as Colonel Baxley mentioned, we have opened Battery Creek High School as a shelter. As this is not a pet-friendly shelter, we ask that residents do not bring their pets. The Hilton Head Airport opened today at 6 a.m., full operations. We encourage everyone to check airline websites for the most up-to-date flight operations prior to coming to the airport or to reschedule, rather than contacting the airport. Inquiries regarding flight information should be directed to American Airlines, Delta Airlines, or United. The Ladies Island Airport is open today. Everyone will be delighted to know that all convenience centers will be open on Saturday from 7:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. And I want to say a special thank you to our employees who got organized yesterday to ensure that those are open tomorrow. The electronics recycling event we had scheduled for Saturday is still canceled. We will reschedule that for another date. The animal shelter will reopen on Monday, and animal service officers are responding to calls at this time. And finally, Beaufort County Council will hold their meetings on Monday as scheduled. There's a very long list of people who need to be thanked for their support and efforts during this event, which I will address at a later time. But I do want to express my gratitude to Sheriff P.J. Tanner and Colonel Neil Baxley and everyone in the Sheriff's Office and assistance. It was a great experience working with all of you, and I appreciate everything you did to keep us prepared and safe. Thanks also to my council for their support, our city and town leaders, our school district superintendent, and our fantastic staff. Thank you.
Major Bromwich, anything on the media side, social media side of it? Something?
Bob Bromwich, Public Information Officer, Beaufort County Sheriff's Office. Just want to thank the leadership in Beaufort County, our state representatives, for sharing a consistent message throughout the storm event. I think I'd like to thank the local media, print, television, and radio, for their excellent coverage. And I'd also like to thank the private Facebook groups for containing the rumors and misinformation. So with that said, I think things went well.
Thank you. My comments are going to be brief. I'm kind of like Ashley. If I were to stand up here and try to thank everyone, I would miss someone, and then that would be bad. But I think everyone did a fantastic job. Everyone that participated in this event did a fantastic job. Of course, Old Faithful over here, he, appropriately named, Mayor Billy, he and his staff did a great job. I mean, these guys and gals, they work hard. So, I've got right at 350 employees, and where some may shine a little brighter than others during events like this because it's part of their day-to-day mission and their job description. You know, Neil has been with us for 36 years, and I mean he does a terrific job. But his support staff with Chuck Runyon and David DeZioli and Bobby Tootin and Trinity and everyone, you know, if it weren't for all of them working as a team, it would not get done. I'm kind of a mediator during these events. My role changes a little bit because when the governor signs his executive order, then I answer directly to him for that period of time. So mediation has come front and center. But I, in a word, if we look back over the last 10 or 11 days, and I've talked to Sheriff Thompson in Horry County and Sheriff Cribb in Georgetown this morning, and I think they're going to be not quite as lucky as us, but it's not too bad. But in a word, for us in Beaufort County, I think lucky is probably the best word we can use, because I don't think a lot of people understand. And you look back, and the fears for us, anytime we have an event such as this, is we have people that remember Matthew, and those that remember Matthew that stayed are now comparing Matthew to you know, Dorain, and there's no comparison. We expected a worse storm. This has been one of the most unpredictable storms that I can remember over many, many years. But we have a huge storm that's very dangerous, staring at our coastline. And if you were watching the storm day by day, hour by hour, like we were, it looked for a period of time that we were going to be in pretty bad shape. As that storm continued to travel northwest and started picking up steam, we were still in the radar. And it was getting closer to Beaufort County, getting closer to the South Carolina coast. But once it straightened up a little bit and started traveling north, that kind of took us to that 6-mile mark. And then northeast, of course, is what we're dealing with now. But I want you to recognize the next time you travel off of our coast, if you're on Hilton Head or if you're on Fripp and you're coming to Beaufort or going to Bluffton, you know, look at your odometer and track 6 miles. From wherever you came from in the Sea Islands of Beaufort, go inward 6 miles, and that's the distance that could have made a difference in how we would have been impacted by this storm. 6 miles is not a long way. It's not a huge distance, but just the buoy off of Fripp kind of gave us an indication that if it had been 6 miles closer to our shoreline, the damage would have been worse, a lot worse than Hurricane Matthew. So in a word, lucky. But I tell you, you know, in order for us to get all the stuff that we do, because this is a huge machine when we're trying to prepare for a hurricane evacuation, and all of the municipalities and the state agencies and the county, you know, working in concert with each other to get things done. We couldn't do what we do if it weren't for really the cooperation of our citizens. You know, that has always impressed me as well, even going back looking at Matthew and Irma and Florence and some of the other storms. We have a lot of people that won't leave with their experience in Matthew, and then they're looking at the storm here, and if anyone's claiming that they sat out a Category 3 in Beaufort County, that didn't happen. But you know, still the participation that we have and the cooperation from our citizens, when we ask them to stay home or shelter in place, they do it. We would like for you to shelter in another location outside of Beaufort County, but we do understand just how difficult that can be for some. So asking people to evacuate is something we'll always do, and we'll stress day after day, hour after hour, the importance of an evacuation, especially when we have a storm like this looking at us. But for those that stayed, looking at our calls for service and looking at our crimes that were committed during this window of time, we had 3 residential burglaries and 3 car break-ins. I don't know about you, but that kind of answers a lot of questions when it comes to asking for an evacuation, and then us asking for citizens to stay home, and then putting a curfew in place. And curfews are designed for multiple reasons. We kept the curfews going last night. I think that helped. We asked citizens to leave Beaufort County. We asked businesses to close and evacuate, and it's our responsibilities to make sure that we secure our county. And in doing so, we have tools such as a curfew and other things that we do. And I think all in all, everything worked. And but you gotta respect the opinions and the choices that our citizens make. That's who we work for. And we do respect the decisions they make in storms like this. So, having said that, questions?
First about the curfew, because there's a lot of complaints out there about people, business owners and such, who came back to the island, who came back and said, I want to open, I want to have people, and there were a lot more people who came back saying, I've got no food at home, I want to go eat, yet they really felt like they couldn't or couldn't stay out longer than they could. What's sort of the thought to them on that?
Well, the curfew was put in place for a reason, and I think we met those goals. And we're not going to always, we can't make everyone happy, but we have to look at the collective security of Beaufort County in totality. And the curfew was put in place by design. It worked. We're not apologizing for it. The curfew hours was 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. It's a reasonable time frame. But let me go back and say this, out of all, we can sign those orders and we can put those curfews in place, but you really need to give credit to the discretion of our law enforcement officers that are out there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. These guys and gals make great decisions. And I'm talking about collectively in Beaufort and Port Royal and Bluffton and Yamasee and with the Highway Patrol. We had a lot of law enforcement officers in Beaufort County over the past several days, and we made 0 arrests for a curfew violation. I think that we talk about Beaufort County, and I know that Chris is back here, and I talked to Chris this morning and hadn't had a chance to ask Matt, but and guys, y'all can come on up if you want to, and if you had stuff that happened within the municipalities, address it. But look, the curfew by design, we made 0 arrests on the curfew for a curfew violation. The discretion of our law enforcement was very good. We had 3 burglaries within the county of Beaufort and 3 car break-ins. I don't know about you, but that sounds real good to me. And it should sound very good to the citizens throughout this county. Again, when we ask people to leave and we ask businesses to close, it's our responsibility to protect our property. You're always going to have 1 or 2 that wanted to do other things, but the choices we make are for the benefit of the county as a whole, not individual personalities. Questions?
What are your concerns about more people not evacuating?
Again, you have to respect personal choice made by citizens. I mean, it's very difficult for us at times to I mean, we can encourage, but requirements and requiring people to do something other than what their own experience may allow them to do is difficult. So we're always going to have this conversation about evacuation. The evacuation experience may have been different today. One of the things that I don't think a lot of people know is that Beaufort County Sheriff's Office, me in particular, did not assume the responsibilities of emergency management until very, very late 2014. And Colonel Baxley was my first choice to put in that position. He's done a terrific job, but one of the things that Neil had to do early on is update every policy in emergency management. All the policies were outdated. There were things that needed to be changed. There were things that needed to be improved upon. And then while we're doing that, we had Hurricane Matthew. And then what Hurricane Matthew presented to us was a failure on our part with social media, because the Facebook bomb went off and we weren't prepared for it, and all the other things that were out there. But at the same time, we had a very, very outdated reentry plan. And there are a lot of people that are sitting back remembering the experiences they had during Hurricane Matthew and are saying to themselves, I don't want to go through this again. I remember what happened in 16. I don't want to do it in 19. I'm going to stay put. Now, the differences are all of those things have been changed. And they've all been modified. They've all been updated. And here's the other beauty to it. Every municipality, the county, the sheriff's office, our law enforcement throughout Beaufort County, everyone adopted the new reentry plan. It's a great plan. It's in place. Thank goodness we didn't have to use it. But on one hand, if we had used it, we could have proved that it actually worked, and that would encourage people in the future to evacuate. So it's a personal choice. We can encourage. We cannot demand. We're just going to have to play each storm ear by ear and try to figure out what we can do better.
Is there any concern, though, that luck that we've had for at least 2 storms now starts to play in the future? Because these people go, well, you've pushed us out twice and nothing happened. And I know what you're saying is absolutely true, but that's what some people are coming up with, too, on this theory of, we've been lucky twice, why wouldn't we be lucky a 3rd or 4th or 5th time?
You're right. I mean, it's actually a good statement, not really a question. It's a very good statement on your part. But here's the other thing, too. If we get through 2019, which is a year ending in 9, remember we talked about this the other day. I mean, the storms that has caused us the most problems has been in years that end in 9. We can get through this year. I think we'll be in pretty good shape for about 10 years. Just a guess.
That was recorded, Sheriff.
You know, I'm prone to say things. Yes, ma'am.
Clarification, so I know we keep talking about past curfew, so it is over now?
It's over.
Okay.
Yep.
Just want to make sure.
The curfew was, for Wednesday and Thursday night. It ended this morning at 6 a.m. So free movement is reestablished in Beaufort County.
Who's in charge of picking up storm debris? Public Works.
Public Works. The question was who's in charge of picking up storm debris, and it's Public Works, Beaufort County Public Works.
Other than trees on the houses, was there any other structural damage that you're aware of?
Very, very little. Some shingles blown off a few homes. We had the power outages, and we had a few trees down. We've got debris everywhere. My wife gave me orders today when I left the house that I could play golf this weekend if I got the yard work done. So I started on it yesterday afternoon. I'll finish it today, and hopefully I'll have a free weekend. But we were very, very lucky.
How about bridges? Structurally, the bridge is all okay?
They've all, we're told that they've all been inspected and they're fine. Did we forget anything? Got anything else? Well, again, thank you all for your coverage during the last several days, and again, thank the citizens of Beaufort County for their support and their patience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.